My beloved child, something happened in a room you were never meant to see, and what began as a simple introduction for marriage suddenly turned into a moment nobody there could explain. Your person had been brought face to face with someone new, someone the people around them believed could become the right choice, someone who looked perfect on paper, someone who arrived with polite words, careful smiles, and expectations already forming in the room. But there was one detail no one had prepared for. A recording existed. A recording connected to you. And before that meeting ended, someone pressed play. Don't skip, because the first few seconds of that recording did not reveal what everyone expected. In fact, your person's entire expression changed before your name was even spoken. They had entered that room believing they knew what the evening would be about. They thought they would sit politely, listen politely, answer a few questions, and eventually find a reason to leave. They had told themselves they could handle it. They had even practiced appearing calm. But somewhere beneath that calmness was a truth they had not admitted aloud. They were comparing every new possibility to you. Every smile reminded them of the way yours felt different. Every question about the future reminded them of conversations they had imagined having with you. Every attempt to discuss marriage quietly brought your face back into their mind. Still, they said nothing. They did not want anyone to know how strongly your memory was affecting them. Then someone at the gathering said 6 words that completely changed the atmosphere. There is something you should hear. Your person looked up. The person sitting across from them went silent. Someone reached for a phone. For one strange second, nobody moved. And then your voice came through the speaker. Stay till the end, because what was captured in that recording was not a confession your person had already heard. It was something you apparently said when you believed they would never know about it. That is why the room became so quiet. Your person recognized your voice immediately. Their shoulders stiffened. Their eyes moved toward the phone as though everything else had disappeared. The recording did not begin dramatically. There was no shouting, no confrontation, no desperate speech. It began softly. You were speaking to someone about your person. Someone had asked you a question about them, and instead of criticizing them, instead of exposing their weaknesses, instead of turning their mistakes into entertainment, you protected their dignity. You said something simple, but it landed harder than anyone expected. You said that people sometimes misunderstand them because they only see what your person shows when they are under pressure. Then you said there was another side of them, one that was thoughtful, complicated, quietly caring, and far more sensitive than most people realized. Your person froze. They had spent so much time wondering whether you truly understood them, and suddenly they were hearing proof that you understood things they had never explained. Don't skip. The recording was only beginning. Someone in that conversation had apparently tried to convince you that your person was not worth waiting for. They listed reasons. They questioned their choices. They suggested that perhaps you should forget everything and move forward without them. Your answer was what changed the entire energy of that marriage meeting. You did not say you would wait forever. You did not say your life depended on them. You did something far more powerful. You said, I will never force someone to choose me, but I also won't pretend what I felt was meaningless. Your person lowered their eyes. The new person sitting across from them noticed immediately. Everybody noticed. Something was happening beneath the silence. Then your recorded voice continued, "If they choose another path, I will respect it. But wherever they go, I hope they become the person they were always trying to become." That sentence shattered the story your person had been telling themselves about you. They had wondered whether you were angry. They had wondered whether you wanted revenge. They had wondered whether your silence meant indifference. Yet here you were, in a recording never intended for their ears, wishing them peace even while admitting that the connection had mattered. And then came the first revelation nobody in that room expected. The recording had not been made recently. It was older. Much older than your person realized. It had been captured during a period when they believed you had already forgotten them. Think about that carefully. While your person had been telling themselves, "They probably don't care anymore," you had been speaking about them with respect behind closed doors. While they were trying to convince themselves that moving on would be easy, somewhere in the background your name and their name were still connected by something neither side had completely resolved. Something huge is waiting for you, because the recording contained another section. Someone almost stopped it. Your person actually looked toward the phone and quietly asked, "Is there more?" Nobody answered immediately. That hesitation made everything heavier. The person holding the phone glanced around the room as though wondering whether continuing would ruin the entire introduction. And perhaps that is exactly what they feared. Because this gathering was supposed to create a new beginning. Instead, every passing second was pulling an unfinished chapter from the past directly into the center of the room. Finally, the recording resumed. This time your voice sounded different. More reflective. More vulnerable, but still steady. You were asked what you would say if your person ever stood in front of you again. There was a pause. Your person leaned forward without realizing it. Then you answered, "I wouldn't ask why they took so long. I'd ask whether they finally found what they were searching for." The new person beside them turned toward your person. That question did something no accusation could have done. Because your person knew the answer. They had searched for distraction. They had searched for certainty. They had searched for something that felt easier. They had searched for a way to make their emotions less complicated. And now, sitting at an introduction that everyone expected them to consider seriously, they suddenly understood that none of those searches had erased you. Stay till the end. What happened next is the moment the entire evening changed direction. Someone asked your person whether they wanted the recording stopped. They said no. Not loudly. Not emotionally. Just one quiet word, "Continue." And the final portion began. Your voice said, "There's something about them people don't understand. When they pull away, it isn't always because they stopped caring. Sometimes they pull away because caring makes everything feel too real." Your person looked stunned. That was the sentence they could not hide from. Because it described the very thing they had never known how to tell you. Their distance had not always been emptiness. Some of it had been confusion. Some of it had been fear of making promises before they understood themselves. Some of it had been the strange pressure of realizing that you could become important enough to change their plans. And suddenly they were listening to you explain them more clearly than they had ever explained themselves. If you are still here, choose an angel number that speaks to you today: 111, 222, for 44, or 777 and place only that number below. Let it mark the moment in this story when everything turned. Because from this point forward, the marriage introduction was no longer the real story. The real story became one question: who had this recording, and why was it played tonight? Your person asked exactly that. Nobody answered at first. Their attention moved toward the person who had brought the recording. What came next was the second revelation. The recording had apparently been kept by someone who knew both sides of the story. Someone who had watched misunderstandings grow between you. Someone who knew your person was now being encouraged toward a new marriage possibility and decided they could no longer remain silent. They had not brought the recording to embarrass anyone. They brought it because they believed your person was about to make an enormous life decision without knowing one crucial truth. You had never spoken about them the way they assumed you had. Your person asked, "Why didn't you show me this earlier?" The answer was unexpected. Because earlier, you would have heard the words. Tonight, you were finally ready to understand them. Silence. Complete silence. Your person looked away. The new introduction suddenly felt distant, almost unreal. But here is where the story becomes even more surprising. The person introduced for marriage did not become angry. They did something your person never expected. They looked at them carefully and asked, "Do you still love this person?" Nobody breathed normally after that question. Your person tried to answer quickly. They opened their mouth, stopped, and looked down. That hesitation said more than any sentence could have said. And the new person noticed. They quietly said, "You don't need to answer me. You need to answer yourself. Don't skip, because those words unlocked something." Your person had been expecting pressure all evening. Instead, a stranger gave them permission to stop pretending. They stood up and walked toward another room, needing a moment away from everyone. Their mind was racing. Your recorded words replayed again and again. "I will never force someone to choose me. I hope they become the person they were always trying to become." I'd ask whether they finally found what they were searching for. Your person suddenly realized that all this time they had been treating your connection like a question they needed to escape, when perhaps it was a question they needed to answer. And then something happened privately. They took out their phone. They opened an old conversation. Your name was still there. They scrolled upward. Old messages. Old moments. Things they had avoided reading for a long time. And for the first time, they were not reading those messages trying to prove that the relationship had failed. They were reading them trying to understand what had remained unfinished. Something huge is waiting for you, because they found one message from you that connected directly to the recording. It was a message they had misunderstood when you first sent it. You had written something that seemed ordinary at the time. "I hope one day you understand I never needed perfection from you. I only needed honesty." Your person stared at that sentence. The recording had just proved what you meant. You were not asking them to become flawless. You were asking them to stop hiding behind uncertainty. And now they were being asked to consider marriage with someone new while the deepest truth about their feelings remained unresolved. Imagine that moment. Everyone waiting in the other room. A new future being offered. A recording of you still sitting open on someone's phone. And your person alone, realizing there was one conversation they should have had long ago. Stay till the end, because the final revelation of this part is the reason they did not immediately return to the introduction. Their phone screen lit up again. Another message appeared, not from you. It was from the person who had played the recording. Only one sentence: there is another recording. Your person's heart seemed to stop for a second. Another recording? They walked straight back into the room and asked, "What do you mean another recording?" The person holding the phone hesitated. Everyone else looked confused. Then they said, "The first recording was what they said about you. The second recording explains what really happened between you." That changed everything. Your person had spent months, perhaps longer, believing they understood why distance formed, why communication changed, why certain things never happened. But now someone was telling them that the story they had accepted might not be the complete story. The marriage introduction was forgotten. The polite conversation was forgotten. Even the person they had been introduced to seemed to understand that something much larger was unfolding. Your person asked to hear it immediately. But the person with the recording did not press play. They said there was one condition. Your person had to promise that whatever they heard next, they would not react impulsively. They had to listen completely. No interruptions. No assumptions. No leaving halfway through. Your person agreed. The phone was placed on the table again. A finger hovered above the screen. And then, just before pressing play, the person said something nobody expected. "After you hear this, you may realize the person you were introduced to tonight was never the biggest decision in front of you. Don't skip now. This is where the real mystery begins." Because the second recording did not begin with your voice. It began with someone else speaking about you. Someone your person knew. Someone they trusted. Someone whose words had quietly influenced the way they saw your connection. Your person recognized that voice immediately, and their face changed. They whispered one name under their breath. The recording continued. The voice said, "They still don't know what actually happened." Your person looked toward the person holding the phone. Their eyes asked the question before their mouth could form it. What happened? Why had this been hidden? And why was everything being revealed on the exact night they were being introduced to someone new for marriage? There was another pause in the recording, followed by a sentence that made your person sit completely still. "If they ever discover why those two were really separated, everything will change. Something huge is waiting for you." The first recording revealed how you truly spoke about your person when they were absent. The second recording was about to reveal why your story changed when neither of you fully understood what was happening. And there was one more detail your person had not noticed yet. In the background of that second recording, someone mentioned a date. Your person recognized it instantly. It was the exact date of the conversation after which everything between you began to feel different. That was when they knew this was no coincidence. Someone had known more than they admitted. Someone had watched your connection shift. And tonight, after all this time, the truth had arrived at the one moment your person could no longer ignore it. If this story is giving you comfort or helping you stay connected to these messages, you can use Super Thanks to support the channel with anything from $8 to $120 if you genuinely wish to. There is never pressure, your presence here already matters. Now stay close, because your person leaned forward, looked directly at the phone, and said, "Play the rest." And when the next voice came through the speaker, they realized the secret recording was not only going to change what they believed about you. It was about to reveal who had been standing between the truth and both of you from the very beginning. The room changed before anyone understood why. Your person had just said, "Play the rest," but the moment the second recording began, the certainty on their face disappeared. The voice coming through the phone belonged to someone they had trusted for a long time, someone whose advice had quietly shaped many of their decisions about you, and hearing that familiar voice in this hidden recording made their entire body go still. Don't skip, because what was said next was not something your person had ever been prepared to hear. The recording continued with a sentence that sounded almost casual at first: "If they keep talking, they are going to figure everything out." Your person looked around the room, nobody spoke. Even the person who had been introduced to them for marriage seemed to realize that this was no longer an ordinary family meeting. Something buried beneath months of silence was beginning to surface. Then another voice in the recording asked, "Why does it matter if they figure it out?" A pause followed. And the trusted person replied, "Because once they understand what really happened, neither of them will see the separation the same way again." Your person leaned forward. Every word seemed to pull them deeper into a memory they had spent a long time trying to put behind them. They remembered the exact period when conversations with you began changing. They remembered little misunderstandings arriving one after another. They remembered hearing things about you that made them question your intentions. They remembered being told you were moving on, that you had stopped caring, that you had said things you never actually said directly to them. And suddenly, for the first time, they wondered whether some of those details had been incomplete. Stay till the end, because this recording was about to expose the missing piece. The second voice asked, "Did you actually hear them say that?" The trusted person hesitated. Then came the answer, "Not exactly." Your person's eyes widened. Not exactly. Two simple words, but they changed the weight of everything. The trusted person continued, "I heard enough to know things were complicated, and I thought creating distance would be better for both of them." Your person immediately whispered, "You thought?" They were no longer simply listening. They were realizing that one person's interpretation may have influenced an entire chapter of their life. The recording continued. They were getting too attached. Neither of them was thinking clearly. So I encouraged them to step away. Another voice asked, "Did both of them know you were doing that?" Silence. Then, "No." That silence hit harder than the answer. Your person looked toward the person who had brought the recording. There was no anger in their face yet. It was something more complicated, shock mixed with disbelief, the kind of expression that appears when old memories suddenly rearrange themselves. Don't skip now. Something huge is waiting for you, because the recording did not prove that someone deliberately destroyed your connection. What it revealed was perhaps even more painful. Someone believed they were helping while making decisions about your relationship that neither you nor your person had asked them to make. They had filtered conversations. They had given advice based on assumptions. They had interpreted your silence for your person and your person's silence for you. And over time, those interpretations became stronger than the truth either of you had actually spoken. Your person slowly asked, "How long has this recording existed?" The answer came quietly, "Long enough." They then asked the question everyone was waiting for, "Why show me tonight?" The person holding the phone looked toward the marriage introduction, then back toward your person. Because tonight you were about to consider building a future while still carrying a past you never fully understood. Nobody could dismiss that. Your person looked at the new person sitting across from them. That person was remarkably calm. Instead of feeling insulted, they seemed almost sympathetic. They said, "You deserve to know what your heart is actually responding to before you make any decision involving mine." That sentence created another unexpected shift. Your person had entered this meeting believing they needed to choose whether this new introduction could become something meaningful. Now they realized the first choice was much deeper. Would they continue living according to assumptions, or finally confront what had actually happened with you? Stay close, because the recording had one more section. Your person almost did not want to hear it, but they knew they had to. The voice in the recording continued, "There is something else they never knew." Your person inhaled slowly. Someone asked, "What?" Then the trusted person said, "They both tried to reach out at almost the same time." Your person's expression changed immediately. They remembered a night when they almost contacted you. They had opened your conversation, typed something, deleted it, typed again, and finally put their phone down. They had always believed that moment belonged only to them. But the recording suggested that somewhere around that same period, you had also been trying to decide whether to reach them. The second voice asked, "Then why didn't they speak?" The trusted person answered, "Because each believed the other had already chosen to move on." That sentence remained in the room like an echo. Two people. Two phones. Two unsent messages. Two hearts making the same assumption from opposite sides. Your person closed their eyes for a moment. They suddenly remembered how many times they had interpreted your silence as an answer. But perhaps your silence had been filled with the same uncertainty as theirs. Don't skip. What happened next was the first time your person openly admitted something they had hidden from everyone in that room. They said, "I never stopped wondering." Nobody interrupted. They continued, "I kept telling myself I was done wondering. But every time something important happened, I thought about telling them." Their voice became quieter. "Every time I imagined the future, I wondered if they were supposed to be somewhere inside it." The person introduced for marriage looked down, not embarrassed, not angry, simply respectful of a truth that had finally become impossible to hide. Then they said something nobody expected, "Maybe meeting me tonight was never meant to give you an answer about me. Maybe it was meant to make you stop avoiding the answer you owe yourself." Your person stared at them. That sentence carried no jealousy. No competition. Just clarity. And that clarity frightened your person more than pressure ever could. Because pressure can be resisted. Clarity cannot be unheard. Something huge is waiting for you. Your person asked for the first recording to be played again. Not the second one. The first. The recording of your voice. They listened to the part where you said you would never force someone to choose you. They listened to the part where you wished them well even if their path went somewhere else. Then they listened again to the sentence about honesty. This time, something changed in their expression. They realized you had never asked them to make a dramatic promise. You had only wanted them to tell the truth about what they felt. And perhaps the reason your connection remained unfinished was because both of you had tried to protect yourselves from a conversation that required exactly that. If you are still with this story, choose the angel number that matches the energy you are feeling right now: 111 for a new beginning, 222 for alignment, 444 for stability, or 777 for a deeper realization, and place only that number below. Because your person was approaching a moment they had avoided for far too long. They opened their phone again. Your name was there. Their thumb hovered over the conversation. Everyone noticed. Nobody said anything. Your person began typing. Then stopped. Deleted it. Began again. Stopped again. This happened 3 times. Finally, they locked the screen. The person who had played the recording asked, "Why did you stop?" Your person answered, "Because I don't know what to say after this much time." And then came another revelation. The person holding the recording said, "Maybe you don't have to say everything. Maybe you only need to say what is true." Your person looked at the phone. What is true? That was the question they had avoided from the beginning. Was it true they still cared? Yes. Was it true they had tried to forget you? Yes. Was it true meeting someone new had made them think of you more, not less? Yes. Was it true hearing your private words had changed how they understood the past? Absolutely. Was it true they were ready to promise an entire future? They did not know. And strangely, for the first time, not knowing did not feel like failure. Because honesty did not require certainty about everything. It only required honesty about this moment. Stay till the end, because instead of sending a long emotional message, your person typed only one sentence: "I heard something tonight that made me realize I may have misunderstood more than I knew." They stared at it. Their thumb hovered over send. But before they could press it, the person introduced for marriage quietly stood up. Everyone looked toward them. They smiled gently and said, "I think this meeting should end here." Your person immediately looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry." But the new person shook their head. "Don't be. I would rather meet someone who knows where their heart stands than someone who says yes because everyone around them expects it." Then they added, "Go find your clarity." That sentence ended the marriage introduction more completely than any argument could have. Nobody protested. Nobody pushed your person to reconsider. It was as if the hidden recording had changed not only your person's understanding but the entire atmosphere around them. What was supposed to be an evening about replacing the past had become an evening about finally understanding it. Don't skip now, because after the new person left, your person asked a question that made everyone uncomfortable: who else knew? The room became quiet again. The person with the phone glanced toward someone sitting near the doorway. Your person followed their eyes. That person immediately looked away. And that tiny movement revealed that the story was not finished. Your person asked again, who else knew about the misunderstandings? The person near the doorway finally spoke. "I knew part of it." Your person's face tightened. "What part?" They answered, "I knew you were both hearing different versions of the same situation." Your person stood completely still. And you said nothing? The reply came carefully. I thought it was already too late. Your person shook their head. You thought. Everyone thought. But nobody asked us. That was the moment something changed inside them. They were no longer interested in blaming anyone. They were interested in breaking the pattern. Assumptions had controlled too much of the story already. They were not going to allow another assumption to decide what happened next. Your person unlocked their phone again. The unfinished message was still there. I heard something tonight that made me realize I may have misunderstood more than I knew. This time they added another line. I don't know what this means yet, but I think we deserve one honest conversation. Their thumb moved toward send. Then something completely unexpected happened. Before they could send it, their phone vibrated. A notification appeared. Your person looked at the screen and went pale. Your name was there. You had sent something first. Nobody in the room knew what it said. Your person stared at the notification without opening it. Imagine the timing. After months of silence. After a marriage introduction. After 2 secret recordings. After discovering that both of you may have been operating from incomplete information. At the exact moment your person was preparing to reach you, a message from you appeared. Something huge is waiting for you. Your person whispered, "How is this possible?" The person with the recording smiled slightly but said nothing. Your person looked suspicious. Did you contact them? No. Did anyone tell them what happened tonight? No. Your person stared back at your name glowing on the screen. Then they opened the message. It was not long. It did not mention the recording. It did not mention marriage. It did not mention anyone else. It simply said, "Something made me think of you tonight. I hope you're doing well." Your person read it once. Then again. Then a third time. The timing felt almost impossible. But rather than turning it into something supernatural or frightening, they understood something very human. Perhaps you had been carrying unfinished thoughts too. Perhaps tonight, without knowing what was happening on their side, you had finally decided not to let another thought disappear unsaid. Your person sat down. Their eyes were fixed on the screen. The person who had brought the recording quietly said, "Now you have your chance to stop guessing." Your person nodded. The message they had written earlier suddenly felt too complicated. They deleted it. Started fresh. 4 words appeared, "Can we talk honestly?" They stared at them. Then added, "No assumptions this time." Their thumb hovered again. If these messages bring you comfort and you genuinely want to support more stories like this, Super Thanks is available for anyone who wishes to support the channel with $8, $20, $50, $100, or up to $120. There is absolutely no pressure, simply being here and listening is meaningful. Now stay with this moment, because your person finally pressed send. The message left their phone. No dramatic speech. No grand promise. Just an invitation to the conversation both of you should have had long ago. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the typing indicator appeared beneath your name. Your person stopped breathing normally. The dots disappeared. appeared again, disappeared again. Everyone else in the room had gone quiet, but your person hardly noticed them anymore. Their entire attention was inside those 3 tiny dots. Finally, your response arrived. Your person opened it. Their expression changed instantly. You had written, "Yes. But there's something I need to tell you first." Your person looked up. The person with the recording noticed their face and asked, "What did they say?" Your person did not answer. Because below your message was another attachment. An audio file. A recording. A third recording. But this one had come directly from you. Your person pressed the phone closer to their chest for a moment, almost afraid to listen. The night had already changed everything they believed about the past. Now you were about to speak directly into the story yourself. Don't skip the next moment. Because when your person finally pressed play, your voice began with a sentence they had waited far too long to hear. "There is one reason I stopped reaching out, and it was never because I stopped caring." And the instant those words filled the room, your person realized the deepest secret had not yet been revealed at all. The third recording began with a silence so long that your person almost checked whether the audio had stopped. Then your voice came through again, quieter than before, carrying the weight of something you had apparently held inside for far too long. "There is one reason I stopped reaching out, and it was never because I stopped caring." Your person's fingers tightened around the phone. Nobody in the room moved. After everything they had already heard tonight, they thought they were prepared for whatever came next. They were wrong. Don't skip, because the next few words forced your person to revisit the exact moment your connection began falling apart. Your voice continued, "I stopped because I believed you wanted me to." Your person immediately looked up. Confusion crossed their face. They whispered, "What?" But the recording continued. You explained that during that difficult period, someone had approached you with information about your person. Not a dramatic warning. Not an obvious lie. Something much more believable. You had been told that your person needed distance, that they were becoming uncomfortable with the emotional intensity between you, and that reaching out again might make things harder for them. You respected what you believed was their request. You stepped away because you thought you were protecting their peace. Your person shook their head slowly. "I never said that." The person who had played the earlier recordings closed their eyes for a moment. They already knew where this was heading. Your voice continued, "I wanted to ask them directly. I almost did. But I was told they had already made their feelings clear and that contacting them again would only put pressure on them." Your person stood up. The chair behind them moved slightly across the floor. "Who told them that?" Nobody answered. Stay till the end, because your recording was about to answer that question. You did not immediately name anyone. Instead, you described the conversation. You remembered where you were standing. You remembered the exact way the person spoke. You remembered being told, "Sometimes caring means knowing when to disappear." Those words had stayed with you. So you disappeared. Not because your feelings vanished, but because you believed remaining present would become selfish. Your person covered their mouth for a moment. Suddenly, the past looked completely different. They had interpreted your disappearance as rejection. You had interpreted their silence as a request for distance. Both of you had been trying to respect a decision neither of you had actually made. Something huge is waiting for you, because your voice then said, there was one thing that never made sense. Your person leaned closer to the phone. Before I was told to stay away, they had spoken to me like someone who still cared. Then suddenly everything changed without them ever saying those words directly to me. You explained that this contradiction had lived inside you for months. You had tried to forget it. You had told yourself perhaps some endings never receive explanations. But something always bothered you. The final message you received from your person did not sound like someone asking you to disappear forever. Your person immediately began scrolling through their old conversation with you. They knew exactly which message you meant. They found it. Their face changed. The message was simple: I need time to understand what I'm doing. Your person read it aloud. Then looked toward everyone else. That isn't goodbye. Nobody responded. They repeated, this time more firmly, that was never goodbye. The trusted person whose voice appeared in the second recording was no longer in the room, but suddenly their influence felt present everywhere. Your person began connecting every fragment. They had asked for time. Someone had translated that into a permanent ending for you. You had stepped away. Someone had translated your respectful silence into abandonment for your person. Two incomplete interpretations had created one enormous misunderstanding. Don't skip now. Your recording contains something even your person never knew. You said that after stepping away, you wrote them a letter. Not a digital message. A real letter. You had written everything you could not bring yourself to say through a screen. You explained why you were leaving them alone. You told them you would respect their space. You told them they mattered to you. Most importantly, you told them that if the information you had received was wrong, they only needed to give you one sign and you would be willing to talk. Your person's eyes widened. A letter? They had never received any letter. You continued speaking. I gave it to someone I believed would make sure they received it. The entire room became still. Your person slowly looked toward the person near the doorway, the same person who earlier admitted knowing part of what happened. That person immediately looked down. Your person asked, "Was it you?" Silence. Was there a letter? Finally, the answer came. Yes. Your person's face lost all expression for a second. Sometimes shock does not look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like complete stillness. Where is it? They asked. The person near the doorway swallowed. I still have it. Nobody was prepared for that. Not your person. Not the family. Not even the person who had brought the recordings. Stay with this, because a letter you wrote during the moment everything was falling apart had apparently remained unopened somewhere all this time. Your person's voice became quiet. Why didn't you give it to me? The answer came slowly. Because by the time it reached me, you were already trying to move forward. Everyone thought giving it to you would reopen everything. Your person stared at them. Everyone? That single word changed the atmosphere. The person began explaining that there had been conversations around your person during that period. People cared about them. People believed they were protecting them. Some thought your relationship with you created too much uncertainty. Others thought your person needed stability. Nobody necessarily wanted to hurt either of you. But somewhere in all that concern, people began making decisions that belonged to you and your person. Your letter was never delivered. Your person's request for time was turned into rejection. Your respectful distance was interpreted as proof that you did not care. And eventually, both sides accepted a version of events that had never been confirmed in one honest conversation. Your person asked for the letter immediately. The person near the doorway left the room. Several minutes passed. Nobody knew what to say. Your person sat down again, staring at your audio message, which had now ended. They replayed the opening sentence, "I stopped reaching out, and it was never because I stopped caring." If this moment feels meaningful to you, choose an angel number for this turning point: 111 for a beginning, 222 for two paths finding balance, 444 for truth becoming steady, or 777 for a hidden understanding coming into the light, and place only your number below. Your person was about to receive something that had been waiting through every month of separation. The person returned carrying a small envelope. It looked ordinary. That almost made the moment more intense. Something that could have changed everything had been sitting inside something so simple. Your person recognized your handwriting immediately. Their name was written across the front. They touched the envelope but did not open it. "How long have you had this?" they asked. The answer was given. Your person looked at the date written in the corner. Their breathing changed. It had been written only 3 days after the last meaningful conversation between you. 3 days. Not months later. Not after everything had completely disappeared. 3 days after your person told you they needed time. Your person finally opened the envelope. Their hands were careful, almost protective. Inside was a folded page. They began reading silently. Nobody else could see the words, but everyone could see their reaction. Halfway through, your person stopped. Their eyes remained fixed on one sentence. They read it again. Then they looked away, overwhelmed. The person who brought the recording asked, "What does it say?" Your person hesitated before reading that part aloud. "If this distance is truly what you want, I will respect it. But if someone has misunderstood what you meant, please find me before we become strangers because of something neither of us actually chose." The silence afterward felt endless. Your person pressed the letter against the table. That sentence had predicted everything. You had suspected there might be a misunderstanding. You had given them a way back. But the letter never reached them. Something huge is waiting for you, because there was another line at the bottom. Your person continued reading. "There is something I have never told you because I was afraid it would make everything more complicated." They stopped again. Their eyes moved quickly across the remaining words. Then their entire expression changed. The person beside them asked, "What?" Your person did not answer. Instead, they folded the letter back slightly, as though the final section belonged only to them. Don't skip. Whatever you wrote in those final lines was so personal that your person would not read it aloud in front of anyone. But it affected them immediately. They stood and walked away from the table. This time, nobody followed. They went outside where the night was quiet and finally called you. Not a message. Not another recording. A real call. Their thumb hovered over your name for only 1 second before pressing it. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. Your person nearly ended the call. Then you answered. For the first few seconds, neither of you spoke. After so much silence, even saying hello felt enormous. Finally, your person whispered your name. You answered theirs. The sound of your voices meeting again after everything created something no recording could capture. Your person said, "I got the letter." Silence from your side. Then you asked, "What letter?" Your person froze. "The letter you wrote me." Another pause. Then your voice changed. "You never received that?" Your person closed their eyes. That question confirmed everything. "No," they said. "I received it tonight." You did not speak for several seconds. Then you quietly asked, "Tonight?" Your person told you enough to make you understand. The marriage introduction. The first recording. The second recording. The hidden letter. They did not explain every detail yet. There was too much. Then they asked the question that had become unavoidable, "Did you really believe I wanted you gone?" You answered, "Yes." Your person lowered their head. "I never wanted that." The words came out immediately. No hesitation. No careful planning. Just truth. You went quiet. Your person continued, "I was confused. I needed time. But I never told anyone to tell you to disappear." Your voice became emotional but controlled. "Then we lost all this time because neither of us asked the other one question." Your person replied, "I know. Don't skip, because that was not the end of the call." Your person asked about the final paragraph of the letter. The paragraph they refused to read aloud. "Did you mean what you wrote at the end?" There was a long pause. You knew exactly what they meant. You asked, "Do you want the answer I would have given then, or the answer I can honestly give now?" Your person was surprised. That question mattered. Time had passed. People had changed, feelings could not simply be assumed to remain frozen forever. Your person said, "Now. I want what is true now." And that was the most mature decision they had made all night. They were no longer chasing the past. They were asking whether anything real remained in the present. You took a breath and said, "What I wrote then was completely true." And part of me never stopped wondering what would have happened if you had read it. Your person closed their eyes. Then you continued, "But I don't want us to rebuild something based only on regret. If we speak again, I want it to be because we understand each other now." Your person smiled for the first time that evening. "That's what I want too." This was not a dramatic reunion. It was something stronger, two people finally refusing to let other people interpret their feelings for them. Your person asked whether you could meet somewhere quiet and talk properly. You agreed, but then you said something that immediately changed their tone. "There is still one thing you don't know." Your person looked back through the window toward everyone inside. "What?" You hesitated. The recording you heard wasn't the only thing I kept from that time. Your person's heart started racing again. What did you keep? You said, proof that I tried to contact you after the letter. Your person became completely still. You explained that weeks after sending the letter, you made one final attempt. You had called a number associated with someone close to them because you believed your messages were not reaching your person. Someone answered. You asked whether your person wanted no further contact. And the answer you received ended your attempts completely. Your person asked, what did they say? You replied, they told me you were already planning a future with someone else. Your person looked back into the room where, only hours earlier, they had been introduced to someone new for marriage. The coincidence made their thoughts spin. That wasn't true, they said immediately. I wasn't planning anything with anyone then. You said, I know that now. Your person asked the next question carefully, do you remember who answered? You said yes. Then you gave them the name. Your person's face changed. It was not the trusted person from the second recording. It was not the person who kept your letter. It was someone else entirely. Someone who had remained almost invisible in everything revealed tonight. Someone your person had never once suspected. And the moment you said that name, your person realized this story was larger than one misunderstanding. Several different people had carried different fragments. Some had acted out of concern. Some had made assumptions. But one person seemed to have known exactly what both sides were trying to do. If you want to mark this revelation, choose 333 if you believe hidden pieces are finally connecting, 555 if you feel a major change approaching, or 888 if this story feels like a cycle finally reaching its turning point. Place only the angel number you connect with most. Your person asked you, are you certain? You replied, I remember their voice. Then you added something even stranger. And I still have a voicemail from that day. Your person's eyes widened. Another recording. But this one was different. This was not a recording about feelings. It was direct evidence of the exact conversation that convinced you to disappear. Your person said, send it to me. You hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. Seconds later, the file arrived. Your person did not play it immediately. They walked back inside. Everyone looked toward them. They placed their phone on the table. There is one more recording. Nobody reacted at first. They had heard that sentence too many times tonight. Then your person looked directly towards someone who had been sitting quietly in the far corner for almost the entire evening. That person's face changed before the recording even started. Your person noticed. And that tiny reaction told them almost everything they needed to know. They pressed play. Your voice from the old voicemail came first, I just need to know whether they really want me to stop trying. Then another voice answered. The person sitting in the corner lowered their eyes. Your person recognized the voice instantly. The recording said, you need to let them go. They've already chosen a different future. Your person stopped the audio. Nobody moved. They looked directly across the room and asked, why did you tell them that? The person finally lifted their head. Their answer was only 5 words. 5 words that opened an entirely new secret. Because I knew who they were. Your person stared at them. What does that mean? The person swallowed and looked toward the letter lying open on the table. There is something about your connection that none of you were supposed to discover this way. Your person's face hardened with confusion. Stop speaking in riddles. Tell me. The person looked around the room, then finally said, "The marriage introduction tonight was not random." Everyone went silent again. Your person glanced toward the empty chair where the new person had been sitting earlier. What are you talking about? The answer came slowly. That introduction was arranged because someone believed seeing you with another possible future would finally close the door on this person forever. Your person stepped back. The recordings. The hidden letter. The timing of the marriage meeting. Suddenly, they wondered whether tonight had been organized around far more than they had realized. If these stories bring you comfort and you genuinely want to support the channel, Super Thanks is available for those who wish to contribute anywhere from $8 to $120. There is never pressure to do so. Your presence and time already matter. Now stay till the end of this moment, because your person asked the question that nobody in that room wanted to answer. Who arranged tonight knowing all of this? No one spoke. Then their phone vibrated again. A message had arrived from the person they had just been introduced to for marriage. Your person opened it. There was only one sentence: "You need to know why I agreed to meet you." Your person stared at the screen. Another message appeared beneath it: "I already knew about you and them before I walked into that room." Your person's heart dropped. The new person had known. But how? A third message arrived. "And the person who arranged our meeting told me something about you that I now believe was completely false." Your person immediately typed, "What did they tell you?" The typing indicator appeared. Then disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, the response arrived. Your person read it once and stopped moving. Because what the new person revealed was not another rumor about your relationship. It was a claim about the secret recording itself. They had been told the recording would prove you never truly cared about your person. Someone had expected that audio to end everything. Instead, the exact opposite happened. Your private words had revealed loyalty, understanding, and a truth your person had never heard directly. Which meant whoever arranged this night had miscalculated something badly. They expected the recording to close the door. They never expected your person to demand the entire truth. And now there was only one question left: if the recording was originally meant to push your person towards someone new, who secretly changed the audio that was played and what was on the version they were actually supposed to hear?